Mabuhay, this is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. My channel is about marriage, hence love to a woman from the Philippines. I want to continue this talk about the importance of chemistry, excuse me, in a relationship, because I hear so many people talking about it, and yet it's something I never thought about before I got married in less than 8 weeks. So I kind of described what chemistry was supposed to be. It's kind of vague in the last video. And now my thoughts on chemistry in my own situation. By the way, please subscribe here, Love Beyond the Sea, and leave a comment. I'm sure you have opinion about this. There should be some kind of chemistry at the beginning, but after that, I think chemistry in itself won't be strong enough to carry a relationship. It might not just continue to build and build and build. I suppose you could even lose chemistry over time. In a foreigner and Filipina very long-distance relationship of thousands of miles, if the Filipino is only looking for a meal ticket or a ticket out of the Philippines without some kind of chemistry to build on, then it isn't likely to work. However, if she senses a chemistry and she believes that this guy has her best interest at heart, she might overlook the age gap or his appearance in order to find security in him, physical, emotional, and spiritual, if he treats her well. If her only interest was financial, the only way it will work is he can somehow develop enough chemistry with sacrificial acts of love, but that might improve, or rather involve, a lot of years, and she might never change. She might be gone by then too if there was no interest from the start. So I think you have to have some interest on her in the start to be able to have a chance to make it last. I would also say the chemistry is important, but it is more like an initial spark that speaks interest. In the last video, somebody made a comment, we don't even know how to define spark necessarily. So that can all be undone if they do not love each other, the kind that involves not being selfish and wanting what's best for each other. I have, believe it or not, been on a few dates where I didn't feel any chemistry at all. I was just waiting for the date to end. Have you ever done that? One woman didn't ask me a question all night unless I had already asked her something first, so it was like an interview. I never asked myself if my Filipino wife and I had chemistry when we started. I obviously was open to a woman from the Philippines and enjoyed Skyping with her twice a day for a total of about 4 hours total a day. I wanted a wife and she wanted a husband. That's a good start. I asked her to marry me on day 18 and we were married on day 54, coming up on 10 years now in May. I never once checked off the chemistry box or had it there at all because it must not have been too important to me at that time. So I feel it would be best to have some kind of chemistry there. Nothing wrong with that, but I just think that the most important thing would be to develop chemistry by loving her and putting her desires above mine. Obviously, if there's some red flags there, you don't want to force chemistry. I have not asked my wife, since we've been married, if she felt any chemistry with me at the beginning. I'd like to think our chemistry was built by the value I placed on her and the actions that followed. The foreigner Filipino would do well to make sure they don't overlook incompatibilities. If you are severely mismatched, why try to fit a square peg into a round hole? The foreigner needs to be careful not to interpret a pretty Filipina chatting with him for a month as evidence of compatibility or chemistry. He might feel sexual, romantic, and emotional chemistry with her, and that's great, but the Filipina must have some kind of chemistry with him too. With a large age gap, it is possible she won't have a strong physical attraction to the foreigner. Maybe she will, but I would say that the wider the age gap, the less sexual chemistry there will be on her end, if any at all. There will have to be another way for him to resonate with her to make her feel safe. I have not looked up the definition of emotional chemistry, but I would imagine it involves her trusting he is honest, not a game player, and he's serious about taking care of her. If I was a Filipina, I can see how a foreigner coming across to me as an older man who has mature and cared about my total well-being and didn't overstate my physical beauty could captivate my interest. If the foreigner's comments are heavy on the physical side, the Filipina, if she is a player, could see an opportunity to play him, to scam him, because she has him hook, line, and sinker already. If a scamming Filipina came across a foreigner who she thought seriously was interested in her as a whole person, I'd like to think she wouldn't waste her time with him if she was a scammer, and that he would be discerning enough to see through her. If she is only looking to string him along for money and someone is asking her to marry him, wouldn't it be easier for her to just ignore him and look for other men who aren't as serious about her? Chemistry will be there in some form if it's going to work. And remember the quote from April Massini, it's important to actively cultivate it because it can help couples deal with future conflicts. That chemistry either needs to be built from scratch, or what chemistry exists needs to be fortified with other acts of kindness to make the Filipina think she would marry this man. The foreign man will need to assure her that he is not interested in her as a sex object, that he wants to provide for her the things she lacks in her life. The Filipina probably has love and home and all kinds of friends, but what can he give her she doesn't already have? A protector and someone to provide for her. That's what the Filipina who has been taking care of her family might feel that no one is taking care of her. She will want someone to love her for her, to provide for her financially and materially, and those are real needs. The foreigner who can do that for her will either pique her interest or win her over if some kind of chemistry already exists. It needs to be there, early or eventually. Again, leave comments, as I'm sure you have thoughts on this. Some kind of compatibility is needed for there to be a reaction with the chemistry. My wife wanted a Christian, I wanted a Christian. I think that certain values she had, I had, so there's commonality, coupled with whatever level of chemistry we had to start with, and a desire on my part to take a chance that we could make it work. We're growing our relationship to this day. Like I said, coming up on 10 years of marriage. I have always liked Filipinas, their looks, size, and reputation. Did we have enough chemistry when we began our relationship? I guess we had enough. I mean, we've been married almost 10 years. But all the chemistry in the world shouldn't be enough to make a man ask a woman to marry him, because he has to want to do that more than being alone the rest of his life. And mistreatment will destroy any chemistry that had previously existed. So that's another thing I want to mention before I am done with this, that, you can undo chemistry too by the way you are talking to each other. So let me know your thoughts on this issue of chemistry. I think most people feel like seem to say it's an essential feature. They've got to have chemistry. But I think there's a bit of a danger in that, and I hope within the last 2 videos on the topic of chemistry, I've been able to explain that a little bit. I think the chemistry between my wife and I is even better since I married my love beyond the sea.